Good morning, everyone. We are doing Havana today. So what we're doing is a farm-to-table experience. We're going to get to see where they make the food, where they grow the food, and everything is pretty much like slow food, organic, non-processed, if that sort of thing interests you. For me, I am really looking forward to getting to try authentic Cuban food and seeing a country I've never seen before. So I don't want to get too much into like a full history lesson here, but a little bit about Cuba. There are a lot of other nationalities that do and can visit Cuba, but for Americans it's been relatively recent, and there's a lot of history between America and Cuba. It was ruled by Spain until almost 1900. And then in the early 1900s, it was sort of an amalgam of different leaders and different influences, some of which were American. In fact, it is widely known that for some time, the American mafia had a large stake in Cuba. In 1959, Fidel Castro led a revolution, and I guess you could say the rest is history. In the 1960s, the United States placed an embargo on Cuba. Although it's been modified several times, it's never actually been canceled or done away with in any way. So Havana was great. We went on a tour of the city by bus, and then we arrived at the farm, where we got to see not only the produce that they grow, but also the animals and what they do with them. When we arrived, we tried some fruit. We had sugar cane, and we had guava and papaya, pineapple, and bananas. And it was all really good. And then we went and saw where the crops were grown, a lot of which was grown to maintain the animals. After that, we saw where they make cheese, and then we sat down for a lunch that included a whole roast pig and just amazing, just, rice and beans, some more vegetables, like we had some onions and things like that, and a little bit of the cheese that they make at the farm. So it was an awesome experience. One of the most interesting things that I learned is that they have rabbits on the farm, and in order to keep rats away, they actually use guinea pigs. So they don't eat the guinea pigs, they just put the guinea pigs on the bottom of the rabbit enclosure. And so, for some reason, something I haven't really been able to parse, having guinea pigs around means the rats stay away, and so it keeps the rabbits safe. Cuba as a country runs very differently than what people in America are used to. It's definitely something that has its ups and downs. Of course, everywhere has its struggles. About Cuba, people are generally, they're not homeless. They have health care because it is all government run. You have to get permission to move. So within your own country, you can't live somewhere else unless you have permission to do that. You have land where you live for the most part, or somewhere to live, and you have a ration card. And the ration card isn't meant to be your entire food source or amenities source for the month or year. However, it's a supplement, so that makes sure that by that ideology, no one goes hungry. Because of this ideology, there are other things that Cuban people are required to do that other people from other countries may not be. For example, America is and by the majority, privatized. But Cuba, if, for example, you have a farm, like the people at the farm-to-table experience we went to, you or your family, maybe generations back, were given land for that farm, but you can't sell that land to any private entity. I believe you can sell it to the government if you don't want it, but you can't sell it to a private entity. You're expected to use that land for its purpose, so the farmers are expected to grow crops on that farm, and as long as they grow crops or produce food, then they will have that farm. But if they don't grow crops or produce food, their land can be taken away from them. And when you are growing your food and producing these things, you have to first provide for the community. So there is a certain amount that is expected to be given to the community instead of keeping it for yourselves. If you are growing milk, then you're providing milk for the children, perhaps at the, lower level schools or families. And then after you've provided all the things you're required to provide, or the percentage you're required to provide, which I'm not sure if it is a certain amount you must reach or a percent you must reach, but once you have contributed what you're required to contribute, then you may sell the rest. You can have a contract with a private company or something similar to that, but you must fulfill your obligations first. So the farm that we attended had all these obligations that they had to fill prior to making any money off of the farm. And depending on your ideology, that could be great because the community is providing for one another, or it could, be less good because you're doing all this work and you're not making the money from it. So that really depends on your point of view. Of course, this type of government has its pros and cons, as I said, and Cuba and Cuba's government and the way people in Cuba live have pros and cons as well. It's something that you hear about two sides of the story, and you see where some people are happy and some people are not, just like in America or Canada or anywhere else. All in all, I really enjoyed learning more about Cuba and seeing it for myself. I hope that from a non-political stance, I hope that Americans and Cubans can get to understand at least each other's cultures more, and that Americans can continue to visit in the future. And I hope that it might someday become easier for Cubans to visit America as well. There's a lot that I learned about Cuba, so I'm really glad. that we went. I had a great day and some of the freshest, most amazing food, and I can't wait to see what's next. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe below or over here in the corner, and I will see you next when I go to Cartagena.